Hi, this is Chris Oberg. Enno's behind the camera, and this is your report from Southeastern California Conference, San Antonio, Sunday. This is day 4 of our business, and we're standing in the corridor that connects the hotel and the dome. This is where the delegates walk every morning, at lunchtime, and at evening, actually. At home, you're just concluding a long holiday weekend, but this has not been vacation for the delegates. It's been a long day of business, and the most efficient things that happened today were the election of some more officers. The nominating committee report came back in, rounding out the under-treasurers, those names for the Treasury Department, and associate secretary. They brought some names in late in the day for the vice presidents. However, those have been referred back to the nominating committee, so we remain in suspense tonight about some of those offices. Now, for the rest of the day, how we spent most of our time, we are going to tell you honestly tonight, today was a little more mess than mystery. It was a difficult Sunday, and our president, Elder Sandra Roberts, says, I can tell you that. We can tell the truth. It was not such a great day in the dome. The experience of the delegates, and we could actually feel some of that. We began with church manual changes early this morning, and there were many of them. I believe there were 24, and we've invited Pastor John Brunt from the Azure Hills Church to reflect with us. Now, you have some experience in church manual changes.
Yes, I think 3 or 4 out of the last 4 or 5 general conference sessions, I've done an article on the church manual changes, so I followed them quite closely. And today was very different.
When you compare this session with previous sessions, how do you summarize that difference?
Well, I wasn't sure that we would be able to get anything on the church manual voted today, even the most simple editorial changes, because of the distrust and the amount of discussion that took place on every single issue. There were issues that I thought would be very simple, and in the first 5 issues that came up, 4 of them were referred back to the committee. Only 1 of them was voted. And there were a couple of reasons why people were so suspicious. For one thing, everything is being viewed through the eye of Wednesday. As one person said today, Wednesday is in the room. Right. And even very simple issues such as, can deaconesses lead out in the communion service? And there was a clear statement saying no to that. Led to a whole worry about commissioned ministers and how they could lead out, right. And hoping on the part of some of them that there wouldn't be women ministers after right. Wednesday, which of course is not up for grabs at all. That's not the issue. But everything was viewed through that issue, so that even an issue like whether we should use the word pastor or minister throughout the church manual was argued in the light of its implications for women's ordination.
So we referred almost everything back today.
Almost everything went back to the committee.
And that's part of what I notice, how I compare this experience with 5 years ago in Atlanta. We can feel the heavy disagreement in the room.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And another main issue that came up over and over again was church discipline. And even very simple things such as that if a person wants to resign from church membership, it no longer has to go to the business meeting and be discussed, but it can simply be recorded by the church board. But there were people unhappy with that, afraid that maybe people would get out of being disciplined.
Yes.
I don't think church discipline is a very big issue in my church or your church, but apparently for some places around the world, it is a yes. major concern, and they were looking at everything in the light of whether people were going to get out of being disciplined or not.
Yes. So we could also say that what we can sense now and feel now is the unique differences between our contexts. Mm-hmm. And when we summarize and say only 7% of the membership now resides in North America, we're feeling that in our conversations in the dome. And it's being articulated.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. It's clear that the global south
yes.
is tired of being ruled by the global north and is going to make it quite clear yeah. that things have changed. And there are quite different values. For instance, there's a large number of the delegates who do not like the idea of secret ballot in any way. They
Yes.
want to raise cards and have everybody have to show how they vote, even on personnel issues and
Yes.
individual names, which in our culture is something that we take for granted.
We
that
do.
We do secret ballots on those kinds of issues.
So this leads us to the challenge with our voting method. We have our voting device, our electronic devices, and if you've been reading the news reports, especially the news from today, you know already that we've voted that we will not attempt to use these electronic devices at all. It was quite a struggle all day. It came up and up and up from delegates on the floor who were insisting we try them again. Finally, Elder Wilson did work with the delegation, one more attempt, and he gave some criteria. We counted people manually, and it was determined that these devices are just not going to be effective. Now, there are lots of explanations for why this is. People are offering all sorts of...
That's right. No one is quite sure whether this is a technical issue or whether it's a sabotage issue where some delegates do not want to use those devices, so they simply aren't registering their votes on them. And I don't think there's any way to know for sure which is the case, but you hear both explanations given.
We hear everything, and we hear it in these corridors as much as we hear it in the dome.
That's right.
So that challenge with the voting devices will now also remain with us. We have more very important decisions to work on tomorrow with fundamental belief adjustments, edits. We won't be using devices for anything now. They tell us we'll be voting manually and then secret ballot on very important.
Sensitive issues.
But that's yet to be determined.
We don't know how it is determined what is sensitive and
Right.
what isn't. We also don't know for sure whether we go on to fundamental beliefs. That's what's scheduled tomorrow, but we didn't even get halfway through the church manual issues, which were scheduled for today. So I don't know whether we're going to go on with church manual tomorrow or whether we're going to start the fundamental beliefs.
Else.
And if it was this hard to get through the church manual issues, I can hardly imagine what it's going to be like for the fundamental beliefs.
I don't know if this happened to you, John, but listening today to some of the delegation, I reflected this afternoon of what it is to be in a position of privilege and to be in a position where you sense you don't have it, right? So I think that's part of what we're experiencing now, and people asserting their right to lead the church. That gives me pause to think. Robin Myers says, "A crisis is a terrible thing to waste." Well, if what happened today felt like crisis to people, there is also much to learn. Tonight as we go to sleep, we could either beat ourselves up for the broken mess humanity is, or we could remember the tremendous potential God still sees in humans and in God's church. I have my eye on this little bird that was flying around the convention center today, and someone said to me, "That's the Holy Spirit trying to get in." Oh, we're praying that that happens tomorrow and the rest of this week. Wherever you are tonight, listening at home in the Pacific Union or around the world, be well.